So one thing I've wanted to do for years was put a pond in my garden. Now I've always been afraid of messing it up, but this year I decided to compromise and go with a mini pond. And to this point I've put in an old sink, sunk it into the ground and made it into a mini pond. Now you may have seen some of my videos I've done recently on how I've done this and what I've done so far. If you haven't, I'll leave a link and you can go and see those. I'm happy to say that life has arrived in my pond. Let's take a closer look. Unfortunately, I'm not an entomologist, so there's limited information I can tell you about what we're looking at. I'm pretty confident that the pinkish, wriggling, worm-like animal we can see swimming around is a bloodworm, the larva of a non-biting midge, sometimes called a lake fly, that looks a bit like a mosquito as an adult, but it lacks the biting mouth parts. The many small black larvae you can see floating at the top of the water are mosquito larvae. They have a siphon on the last segment of their bodies which they breathe through, which is why they can look like they're hanging down from the top of the water. There are some other larvae in here, but I've been unable to identify what they are unfortunately. They're quite possibly larvae of other midge-type flies. So I thought it would be really interesting to take a much closer look at what's in this pond. So I've got some sample pots, I have a microscope waiting for me inside. Let's see if we can find something interesting. Alright, let's go and see what we got. This first specimen pot contains several small mosquito larvae. You can see why they are sometimes called wrigglers. The second pot contains a larger mosquito larva. You can see its mouthparts filtering the water to feed on algae and bacteria. Its siphon is poking through the water to allow it to breathe. The third pot, I'm not sure what this is. It looks similar to the bloodworm larvae, but it doesn't have the red coloration. I think this could be another type of midge fly larva. So I have here a microscope. I've got my sample of pond water and I have what are called cavity slides. These are microscope slides that have a slight depression in the centre to allow liquid in it. So what I'm hoping to do is to get a sample of the pond water, just a little drop, place it into the centre of the slide, put it on the microscope, and hopefully we'll see something exciting in there. So I'm going to have a go at doing that, and if I see anything good, I'll let you know. When I picked this one out, I thought it was one of the mosquito larvae, but looking at it now, I think it's a midge larva. It has a distinct head and two tiny legs just underneath it. The dark line running down its body is the digestive tract, and we may be able to see some hair-like filaments on its rear end. This specimen is a small mosquito larva. You can see the differences immediately. It has a much larger head compared to its body with large mouth parts. It doesn't have any legs, but it does have these long hair-like structures extending out from its body. I'm guessing these help it swim. It's not all animals in the pond though. This appears to be some kind of plant matter, possibly a seed of some kind, but I really couldn't tell you for sure. It has some kind of stem coming out the top. This last clip is my favourite. It was a much larger mosquito larva that I didn't put a cover slip on top of, so it had more freedom to swim around. You can clearly see its large head with its mouth parts and eyes. Its body is segmented with small hairs extending from each segment. You can see its digestive tract and blood vessels, and we get a look at its siphon too. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed taking a closer look at some of the life that we could find in that pond. And come back next time and hopefully we'll find something else. I'll see you then. Goodbye.